Well, hello everyone. My name is Brian Stevens and I am the President and CEO of the Hampton Roads Chamber, the chamber that is unapologetically pro-business. This is the second in our series of Hampton Roads Chamber Chats, and we have a distinct honor of having with us today Mr. John Martin, who is the President and CEO of SRIR. John, welcome.
Thanks, Brian. It's a pleasure to be here.
John, I know that we've worked with you a lot, and SRIR is a great company. Can you tell us a little bit about your company?
Well, thanks. We've been around for 6 decades, and we're a strategic planning group, and we do a lot of plans, help people figure out what to do today and what tomorrow's going to look like, and we use a lot of research in that effort.
Yeah. I love the fact that you're a research-based organization, because I truly believe that if you do the research and the analysis, you can better formulate a strategic plan. And you guys do that better than any in the country, I think.
Well, thank you.
I know you're doing a lot of work in Richmond. I know you're doing a lot of work here in Hampton Roads. I also know that you and your team travel a lot to other regions and do work. So you've got a perspective of a lot of different regions, and we really appreciate that here in the 757.
Well, it's an honor to help everybody.
Yeah. John, you know that COVID has had a tremendous impact on our business community. And we came together, you and I and other regional leaders, probably about 9 months ago.
Right.
And we said that this is going to be a long-term journey for us. And we decided that we were going to try to work together with your leadership and Doug Smith's leadership and others to try to develop a 757 Recovery and Resilience Framework Action Plan.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that action plan? And I love I guess it's a tagline or whatever, but it really resonates with me. And that's 757 equals 1.
Yeah. Well, you know, nobody saw COVID coming. And it really hit us with a vengeance. And I tell you, the winning regions of tomorrow are the ones that aren't just sitting back and having COVID wash over them, that they actually are being intentional about creating a plan to try to cut off the amount of time it's going to take to recover, to really accelerate the recovery period, and to really do it in a way where the region and the business community comes out in a more resilient manner, prepared for the next shock. And so that takes work and intentional work. And so what I was so impressed with was your leadership and Doug Smith and a number of other organizations coming together at the beginning of the COVID pandemic and saying, we've got to start planning now for tomorrow. And that amount of unity is something that I wish everybody in this region could see. That the idea of people not working together here is just a myth. You guys showed the way, and through your effort of probably half a dozen organizations working together every week, put together a comprehensive long-term plan that involved 200 business leaders in putting it together to figure out where are we going to go and how are we going to control our destiny.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And I like what you said about the regional leaders coming together in a collaborative fashion.
Yeah. Because
the lack of collaboration in Hampton Roads is a legacy narrative. People still talk about it, but John, you and I know that that's not the case anymore. And we need to take every opportunity to share with the residents of 757 that we are coming together, we are working together, both in the private and public sector.
That's
so
right.
I appreciate you saying that. John, in the action plan, we articulate really 4 overarching goals. And those goals are to build a better economy for 757, faster recovery from COVID, stronger economic growth, and future resilience. Right. You want to elaborate on those 4 overarching goals, because I think they're so important that people understand what we're trying to do with this action plan.
Well, just listening to you tick them off, the first thing that comes to mind is this really is a plan the business community put together for the business community. We have to move at the speed of business. And so the way you articulated those is exactly right. We are trying to build this economy and do it in a way that it becomes more resilient by being more diversified, and that the companies here become stronger through this process. And so Those are really core goals to this. And doing it in a way that unifies all of us, that pulls the whole region together like never before, because that's really what it's going to take to make this happen.
Yeah, regional unity is so important. You know, as you well know, John, we do interregional visits to try to gather best practices in other regions that may economically be doing a little better than we are.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the common themes on every region we go to is that they've come together as a region.
That's right.
That regional unity, that sense of place is so important. So, you know, we were working on this before COVID and with the 757 brand and all that. We hope that this plan continues to take regional unity to the next level.
That's right. And in fact, we, through this process and these organizations that came together, did 3 different surveys to the business leadership across Hampton Roads. And we talked about what needs to be done, you know, and got input. And the number one input, the number one thing that business leaders said is going to get us out of this recovery period faster is unity, regional unity. So that's one of our core strategic pillars.
Yeah,
I think to build that.
I think one of the key sayings that's really applicable here in the 757 because of all the water that we have and our Navy presence is that a rising tide floats all boats. And I think that's so true with here in Hampton Roads. We got to come together. We got to support each other, and we'll get through this together. Yeah. You mentioned the 3 surveys. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the developmental process of the action plan. I think you started with some surveys.
That's right.
Can you tell us a little bit about those surveys and specifically what they showed as far as the impact of COVID on our business community?
Yeah, well, and the surveys were designed, the first one really to get a handle on what was everybody experiencing, you know, and so we could share that so you could, as a business leader, understand the impact on you, where is it a similar impact on other companies? And what we saw early on is that 2/3 of businesses have been impacted by this.
2/3.
2/3. And the biggest impact, obviously, is their workforce, having to scale back a little bit. In their revenue, you know, the revenue side. And the supply chain is another impact, a little bit slower delivery of the services and goods they need to operate as a business. So the first survey was so important in being able to share back with the community. They said, look, you're not alone. This is what's happening. But what was also interesting is listening to your national delegation and their questions about how should we design a recovery package that will benefit businesses. And so we used the survey as a mechanism to get input from business leaders on what they thought a PPP should be about. And so that was really helpful to have that tool in place. But asking them about the plan, you know, we really tapped into a nerve when we said, how long do you think this period's going to last, that we're going to be affected by this pandemic from a business sense? And the business leaders said, this is going to take a whole nother year before we recover. Yeah. And that was the inspiration for this plan, to say, wait a minute, we've got to cut some time off of that. Yeah, we've got to move faster.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So the business leader survey also supported, the third wave of it supported the committees that got set up to do the strategic framework and provide direct input on different topics. So when I think about the folks that actually built the strategic framework, what we're calling this plan, it was about 200 business leaders, but they were getting direct input from some 5,000 business leaders to say, go forward, march forward, here's some input that'll help you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, you talked about the formation of several committees, and those committees have been working on really some strategic imperatives.
Right.
And I know we've developed 5 strategic imperatives that will get us to those goals we were talking about earlier. Those strategic imperatives are building regional unity, talking about that regional unity again, it's so important. Growing new jobs.
Right.
Grow, retain, and attract talent, so important.
Yep.
Grow resiliency.
Right.
And advance regional infrastructure.
Yep.
Could you share with us a little thoughts about those 5 strategic imperatives? And I know maybe talk a little bit about the 30 goals that are under them.
Right. Well, all of this is going to be rolled out. It's in a soft launch now, and it'll be in a full-scale launch in March. But those 5 pillars are important because it was the way to really organize all of this input and really in a way that points to what has to happen.
Yeah.
From a 30,000-foot perspective. And so that first one, to build regional unity, is everything we've been talking about. How do we do that, and how do we formally galvanize this pent-up support that the business leaders want to give, and by starting a sort of an organized way of having ambassadors that really can get behind this. In addition, we know from our research, even beyond this project, that people don't have a real great appreciation for all of the facts behind Hampton Roads and all the initiatives and projects that are going on. So, so part of this building unity is also sharing information about just how big Hampton Roads is. It's 17 different jurisdictions. Most people think it's 7. And so we've got to set the record straight and do it in a sort of a pride-building way.
And all the assets that we have.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So that's part of building unity.
Oh,
yeah. And then the other strategies, without going into detail about each one, it's certainly about attracting more jobs. And Doug Smith and the great work at the Alliance is going to keep continuing to do that and pour even more effort into it. And then we've got to do a good job with training the workers that we have already and upskilling them for the coming automation of jobs. So everybody's got to kind of move up. And so Sean Avery, who's been part of this whole effort,
absolutely,
with the Hampton Roads Workforce Council, he's all into this plan and has incorporated a lot of his activities into that.
That's right.
And then another pillar is this build resiliency. And what's so neat about that is everybody in the 757, when you hear the word resiliency, you immediately say environmental resiliency.
Yeah, sea level rise.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's important and part of this plan, but more than that, it's the resiliency of the economy being diversified and of businesses being even stronger.
Yeah.
And so there's certain programs that have been designed to be resources to businesses in this effort. And then the last one is infrastructure, and that's just really important. You think immediately about roads, and we've got an incredible $5.2 billion program that's underway, and we're starting to see it now in the construction with roadways. But you've got to also think about infrastructure in terms of how we're communicating about who we are, and doing that in an ongoing way to people outside of Hampton Roads. So all of this gets tied together.
Yeah, and
plan.
Under those 5 strategic imperatives, you have 30 initiatives.
Yeah, a lot of different programs. But I think the most important thing is you've got, for those 5 initiatives, you have a responsible party, a responsible organization. Brian, you've taken on one pillar.
Yeah, the resilience piece.
Right, and Sean Avery's taken on a piece, and Doug and the Alliance has taken on a piece. And so all of that comes with really concrete key performance indicators
that are measurable,
KPIs, and a dashboard
Yeah.
that's going to hold everybody accountable. So it's going to be exciting when this is all rolled out to the business community, and they see for the first time a plan that is not designed to go on somebody's shelf,
right?
But an active action framework that husbands the best of things that were already going on and adds to them some additional strategies and programs, but all into one place where the entire business community can get behind it. Yeah. That's the real magic of what we've got here.
Yeah, I think it's fabulous. Like I told you privately, and I think publicly, that I am so impressed with this plan. I think I think it's exactly what this region needs, not just to recover from the pandemic, but to really take us where we need to be as far as a region, with all the great assets, to include the people that we have here in Hampton Roads, and the diversity. Speaking of diversity, can you share a little bit about the emphasis that we placed on diversity and inclusion in this action plan?
Well, I think every plan now in every organization is thinking about how to grow greater inclusion and to increase the diversity within their organization, but how to be more inclusive and how to be more equitable in terms of the services they're delivering. And now regions are thinking this way.
Yeah.
And so this plan intentionally incorporates that lens through all the different programs. We spoke about resiliency for businesses and helping them in the future. Not everybody has the size and scale to have a whole staff dedicated to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So some businesses are hungry for this, and we saw it in our research. The smaller companies said, no, I would love to have training for that or resources for that. And so building that capacity is helping a company become more resilient.
Yeah.
And so part of the deliverables is having a program to help out there.
Absolutely.
With diversity and inclusion, having experts to be able to come in, but also resources you can tap into.
Absolutely. You know, one of the strengths of the 757 is our diversity.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how proud I am of that fact. And also here in the chamber, we always say that diversity and inclusion is now a business imperative.
Right.
It's just not a program that a company should be managing.
That's right.
It is an imperative for business success today. So we're so glad that we've incorporated through this entire action plan. You mentioned earlier a soft rollout.
Yeah.
I know we're going to be rolling this out and briefing numerous organizations and elected officials here in the next 30, 60 days. And then tell us a little bit about the full rollout.
Well, all of the partners like you, the chamber, that have helped really lead this effort are going to be part of rolling this out. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to have a soft launch, which is taking place in February. And that's really going out to a lot of the mayors and city managers and leaders of different organizations to give them sort of a sneak peek on what this is all about and to get their input, because this is a framework that I look at as a very sort of a living document on our programs that everybody's going to keep refining and making stronger and stronger. So we'll get the input from our leaders across the community. And then in March, it gets rolled out in detail to the entire business community.
Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. And,
you know, you and I discussed the chamber possibly doing an event to help with the launch of this. So more to follow on that.
Well, I just want to end where we started. I tell you, this is a real testament to the partnership that's taken place in this community, to see all the organizations, all the lead business organizations like Civic and Strom, ODU, and Norfolk State, and everybody come together. You at the table with Doug, everybody working together from the very beginning on this is really going to be the key factor for why it's going to be successful.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your leadership and your great team that really worked to pull this together. And John, you know, we in the chamber have another saying, and that saying is we must always pivot to the positive.
Right.
And even in the midst of this pandemic, that's what we're doing. We're pivoting to the positive. We know that this 757 Recovery and Resilience Action Plan is going to help truncate the recovery and make us more resilient in the future. So thank you so much for your leadership and hard work. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks with another Hampton Roads Chamber Chat. Thank you.